In just 72 hours, Crimea changed forever. Russian air bases were hit. Jets were damaged. Air defenses burned. Explosions lit up the night sky. Satellite images shocked the world. Ukraine stayed silent. Russia rushed to explain. What really happened in these 72 hours? Let's break it down. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are talking about 72 hours that shook Crimea. These 3 days changed the military picture in the region. Explosions were reported across multiple locations. Russian air bases came under heavy pressure. Military jets were reportedly damaged. Air defense systems caught fire. Videos appeared online within minutes. Smoke rising from secure zones shocked observers. Crimea was considered one of the most protected regions. Strong radar coverage was always claimed. Layered air defenses were frequently highlighted. Yet something went wrong. Ukrainian strikes appeared precise and focused. Targets were not random. They followed a clear pattern. Airfields were hit first. Support infrastructure followed. Defense systems were then neutralized. This suggested deep planning. Western analysts noticed the timing. Each strike happened within short intervals. Russian responses seemed delayed. Emergency crews rushed to damaged sites. Flights were halted at several bases. Security alerts were raised. Local residents reported loud blasts at night. Social media spread footage rapidly. Official statements were cautious. Information was tightly controlled. Despite this, visual evidence told a story. These 72 hours raised serious questions. How were defenses bypassed? What weapons were used? Why was Crimea suddenly vulnerable? In the next sections, we will analyze every phase. We will separate facts from claims. We will explain why these events matter globally. The first phase focused on Russian air bases across Crimea. These bases support operations over southern Ukraine. They house fighter jets and bombers. Early reports mentioned explosions near runways. Satellite images later confirmed scorch marks. Several aircraft were seen damaged on the ground. This is critical in modern warfare. Aircraft are most vulnerable while parked. Striking them reduces air power instantly. Ukraine has previously targeted logistics hubs. This time the focus was aviation assets. The attacks appeared well synchronized. Multiple bases were hit within hours. This overwhelmed local defenses. Air raid warnings came too late. Some jets were reportedly relocated afterward. Others could not be moved in time. Repair crews worked under heavy security. Flights were suspended at certain facilities. Fuel storage areas were also affected. This limited sortie capability. Russian officials downplayed the damage. They spoke of minor incidents. However, independent imagery suggested otherwise. Western intelligence monitored the situation closely. They noted reduced flight activity. This indicated operational disruption. For Ukraine, this achieved several goals. It reduced immediate threats. It forced Russia to spread defenses thinner. It also sent a strong message. Crimea was no longer untouchable. Psychological impact was significant. Confidence in air superiority was shaken. This phase set the tone for what followed. The second phase involved attacks on air defense systems. These systems protect Crimea from aerial threats. They include radar units and missile batteries. Videos showed fires near known defense positions. Radar silence was reported briefly. This raised alarm among military observers. Air defense suppression is a complex task. It requires accurate intelligence. It also needs precise timing. Ukraine appeared to achieve both. By targeting defenses, follow-up strikes became easier. This is a standard military strategy. Remove the shield first, then hit critical assets. Russian forces attempted quick repairs. Backup systems were activated. However, gaps were already created. Some missiles were reportedly intercepted. Others slipped through. This suggested saturation tactics. Multiple incoming threats at once. Defenders had to choose targets. Not everything could be stopped. The burning of defense units had symbolic value. These systems represented control. Seeing them damaged affected morale. Local authorities increased patrols. Movement restrictions were imposed. Airspace monitoring intensified. Still uncertainty remained. Which systems were fully operational? Which were degraded? This uncertainty benefits attackers. It forces defenders to stay cautious. Resources are stretched. Reaction times slow down. This phase showed a shift in capability. Ukraine demonstrated growing reach. Crimea's protective bubble looked fragile. The third phase highlighted damage to Russian jets. Footage showed burned aircraft shells. Some were covered to hide details. Others were clearly destroyed. Fighter jets are expensive assets. Replacing them takes time. Training pilots takes even longer. Losses on the ground are especially painful. They do not allow for aerial combat. Analysts counted visible airframes. Even conservative estimates showed impact. Jets used for patrols were reduced. Strike missions were delayed. Maintenance schedules were disrupted. Spare parts logistics became stressed. Russian command adjusted flight patterns. Aircraft were dispersed to other bases. This reduced efficiency. Longer flight times were required. Fuel consumption increased. Operational tempo slowed. For Ukraine, This meant fewer threats overhead. It created breathing space. Civilian areas faced reduced air activity temporarily. This also influenced international reactions. Partners observed tangible results. Discussions about support intensified. The message was clear. Modern air power is vulnerable. Bases far from front lines are not safe. Precision strikes can change equations. This phase reinforced earlier lessons. Protection requires constant adaptation. Static defenses are insufficient. Mobility and deception matter. The events in Crimea became a case study. Military academies took notes. The world watched closely. Beyond physical damage, information warfare played a role. Videos spread rapidly on social platforms. Each clip increased global attention. Official silence fueled speculation. Contradictory statements created confusion. This information gap was powerful. Ukraine maintained strategic ambiguity. No detailed confirmations were given. This kept pressure on Russia. Analysts filled the space instead. Maps and timelines were created. Open source intelligence thrived. Every satellite image was analyzed. Every plume of smoke was counted. This decentralized analysis shaped narratives. Russia attempted to regain control. Media access was restricted. Alternative explanations were offered. Training accidents were mentioned. Debris fires were blamed. However, repetition reduced credibility. Public trust matters in conflicts. When visuals contradict words, doubts grow. International audiences noticed. Regional confidence was affected. Allies assessed risk levels. Insurance costs around the Black Sea changed. Commercial routes were reconsidered. Thus, impacts extended beyond the battlefield. Information dominance became contested. This phase showed modern war dynamics. Battles are fought online as well. Perception can influence policy. Policy can influence supply. Supply can influence outcomes. The Crimea strikes demonstrated this chain. 72 hours echoed far wider than expected. Strategically, Crimea holds massive importance. It controls access to the Black Sea. It hosts naval and air assets. It serves as a logistics hub. Any disruption there is significant. The strikes challenged long-held assumptions. Crimea was seen as deeply fortified. Natural geography aided defense. Man-made systems reinforced it. Yet vulnerability was exposed. This forces reassessment. Russia may need to redeploy forces. More air defenses could be moved south. This weakens other fronts. Resource allocation becomes difficult. Every defense added in Crimea is removed elsewhere. Ukraine benefits from this dilemma. It stretches opposing capabilities. It creates multiple pressure points. Strategic depth is reduced. Confidence in rear areas declines. This affects planning cycles. Long-term operations become cautious. Risk tolerance drops. For global observers, lessons are clear. Territory control does not equal security. Technology evolves constantly. Attack methods adapt. Defense must keep pace. Failure to do so is costly. The Crimea events underline this truth. They show how focused strikes can reshape priorities. They also show limits of static protection. Future conflicts will reflect these lessons. Militaries worldwide are already adapting doctrines. International reactions were immediate. Governments requested briefings. Security councils held meetings. Statements were carefully worded. No one wanted escalation. Yet concern was visible. The Black Sea region is sensitive. Any instability affects trade routes. Energy shipments pass nearby. Insurance premiums reacted quickly. Markets monitored developments. Allies of Ukraine noted effectiveness. Support discussions gained momentum. Opponents urged restraint. Diplomatic channels became active. Back-channel communications increased. Everyone wanted clarity. At the same time, silence remained from key actors. This balance was intentional. Strategic patience was practiced. Analysts compared past strikes. They noted increased sophistication. Timing, accuracy, and target selection improved. This suggested learning and adaptation. International law discussions also surfaced. Questions about escalation thresholds emerged. Where is the red line? Does striking Crimea change dynamics? Opinions varied. Some saw deterrence. Others saw risk. This debate continues. What is clear is impact. 72 hours forced global attention. They changed conversation tones. Crimea was no longer background noise. It became a focal point again. For civilians in Crimea, the experience was unsettling. Nighttime explosions disrupted daily life. Power outages were reported briefly. Roadblocks appeared suddenly. Movement became restricted. Rumors spread quickly. Official reassurances tried to calm fears. However, uncertainty lingered. Air raid alerts became more frequent. Shelters were discussed openly. This psychological effect matters. Civilian morale influences stability. When people feel unsafe, pressure grows. Local businesses paused operations. Tourism activity declined sharply. Travel advisories were updated. Flights were monitored closely. This had economic implications. Even short disruptions have costs. Supply chains were reviewed. Emergency preparedness was tested. For authorities, maintaining order was crucial. Patrols increased visibility. Communication channels were emphasized. Despite efforts, anxiety remained. This shows another dimension of warfare. Impact is not limited to soldiers. Civilians feel consequences immediately. This can shape public opinion. Public opinion can influence governance. Thus, strikes have layered effects: physical, psychological, and economic. The Crimea events illustrated this clearly. 72 hours altered daily reality. Normalcy felt fragile. Looking ahead, several scenarios are possible. Russia may reinforce Crimea heavily. More systems could be deployed. This increases defense density. However, it also strains resources. Ukraine may continue pressure. Selective strikes could persist. This keeps defenses active constantly. Fatigue becomes a factor. Another scenario involves adaptation. Camouflage and dispersion may increase. Bases could decentralize assets. This reduces vulnerability. Yet it reduces efficiency. Technology development will accelerate. Countermeasures will be tested. Electronic warfare may expand. Drone tactics will evolve. Both sides will learn. International involvement may adjust. Support packages could change focus. Emphasis on air defense suppression may grow. Training priorities may shift. Strategic messaging will remain cautious. No side wants uncontrolled escalation. However, deterrence requires credibility. These events provided that. They showed capability, not intent. This distinction matters. It leaves room for diplomacy. At the same time, it signals resolve. The balance is delicate. Future weeks will reveal trends. For now, Crimea remains tense. Attention remains high. The 72 hours continue to echo. In conclusion, these 72 hours were pivotal. They reshaped perceptions of security in Crimea. Air bases were challenged. Jets were damaged. Air defenses burned. More importantly, assumptions collapsed. The belief in complete protection faded. This has long-term consequences. Military planning must adapt. Resource distribution must change. Information control faces new realities. Civilians experience vulnerability. International actors reassessed risks. All of this happened quickly. Speed amplified impact. Precision amplified meaning. Silence amplified uncertainty. Together, they created strategic shock. This was not just about explosions. It was about signaling capability. It was about forcing attention. It was about altering calculations. Whether escalation follows remains unclear. What is clear is precedent. Crimea can be reached. Crimea can be disrupted. Future actions will consider this. History will likely mark these days. Not as the largest battle, but as a turning signal. A moment when confidence shifted. A reminder that modern war is dynamic. Static defenses are not enough. Adaptation decides outcomes. If you found this analysis useful, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments.